Welcome to our presentation today on Brightspace. When I was planning what I wanted to show you, I was trying to think about which features really were new and different to me, and which ones will allow my students, who are multi-generational, to access Brightspace in a way that makes sense for them. So I'm going to show you a couple of different features, and I'm trying to bite-size what I share so that we can all walk away with something, we have questions about, or that we're excited about, or that we plan to use. So I'm going to do a screen share so you can all see my Brightspace. Everybody see my Brightspace? Okay, great. So this is the welcoming screen when you log into Brightspace as a course manager. And the first thing I want to show you is just like how visually friendly it is. So you'll notice on the side here, I have an announcement that's personalized. Because it's me looking at it, my name shows up as Kristen. I kind of love this feature. This can be personalized for missing assignments. This can be personalized like for the whole class, like every single person who signs on, they get a welcome message that includes their name. But if I was needing to reach out to a few people, I can make sure that just a few people receive the message and it has their name included. Like, you didn't do that assignment, or I didn't see you in class last week. And that's something I really enjoy about the announcements. Then you have your instructor details, which can be fully personalized with your picture. You can choose your background. You can choose what information you input. So again, sharing as much about yourself as you would like to with your students, providing information about maybe your office hours or your preferred contact information. And then you can see here, like a favorite feature of mine is just the visual nature of Brightspace, like all of the images that show up for the different modules I've created. So now, just to give you an idea, this is a full course put into Brightspace. So that's why there are so many different boxes available with different images. I went through an entire semester and kind of set up a shelf for each week. But I love the fact that I can attach an image to each one, and when students enter, it's really visually appealing for them. The other feature I like on the main board is this one. Now, I put in some due dates just so I can get a feel for when things are upcoming, and I could also show you what happens if you miss an assignment and something's overdue. So you can see here, this is like what students will be looking at for overdue work or things that are not due yet but are coming up. And it's a nice snapshot for what's going on in the course. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you is a feature that I used a lot. Oh, I'm already in it. Sorry, I'm just gonna switch for 1 second. The feature I wanted to show you was that you can view Brightspace as a learner, which is really what I love, because something that I wasn't able to do a ton of in the other learning management systems I used was like see what my students see. So if I remove the Brightspace as a learner, this is going to be like a little different because this is the instructor side of it. And then up at the top where your name is, you can view it as a learner and see what your students see when they enter the course. I think that's one of my favorite features of Brightspace so far, because I can check every time I do something to make sure it shows up the way I hope it does for students. So that's a really interesting feature. And then the next thing I wanted to show you is just what it looked like when I started to design my sessions. So the course you're looking at here is a course that's hybrid, and it involves in-person sessions and online sessions. And the online sessions are asynchronous, so we use a lot of different tools. And I think a feature that is important to me is that I can easily access other tools through my learning management system. So I found that I was able to do this. So here's an example of a session where I'm going to see my students. And what I decided for this is what I'm going to do is include the objectives for the session, let them know what the topic of the session is. Again, I have an image, so when students look at it, they will be able to differentiate between this session and another session. And then I'm telling them what they need to read before they come to class. Now, this is already available for them in the syllabus, but I do like to kind of pull it out and emphasize it in my course shell. So the feature that I used here is called a checklist. And what I like about it is that I was able to sync with ease to, I use Google Drive, and here's what my work looks like for the week. And again, this comes right from my syllabus. So they have a chapter to read in their course text. I added that here. They can check it off as they complete it. And then they're going to pick one of the following articles. And then, so I'm just going to pick one of them so I can show you what it looks like when you click on the link. But this is a PDF that comes right from Google. And I was able to add it without issue here. So my students can choose to read about it. They can read about it right here, or they can open it in another browser. They can print it. And I really appreciate that feature of it. The next thing I want to show you is just get back to where I was. So that's the vocabulary. There's that image I talked about before. When you're in your module or your topic, on the left side of the screen is a table of contents that shows you everything you can navigate in Brightspace. And this was also helpful for me because I often want to step back into the course home, which I can get to here, but I like the fact that I can just kind of toggle between different topics by using this. These are all hyperlinked, and you can move pretty easily from one area of your course into the next. Okay, so that is how I set up your pre-class readings for a class where I'm going to see my students online. The next thing I want to show you is what I do when I'm really leaning into the online tools of Brightspace. So this would be an asynchronous online session. This is where we're not meeting, there's no face-to-face contact, and they're a little bit more on their own. So we're relying on some of the tools that Brightspace has. And here's where I got to explore the different features. So in, true disclosure, Blackboard was not my favorite tool. So over the years, I've picked up a lot of different tools that I liked better. So, I lean hard into like Padlet. And when Flipgrid was an option, I used that. And I found these outside tools to provide us a lot of option for how students can share different aspects of themselves, can connect to each other, can share their learning. And I'm able to add them all in here. So for this session, we're again in vocabulary. This is the week after we met. I've added my objectives. This is like the announcement of this module. And then again, I'm able to be visual. So I give them an idea of what their tasks are going to be for the week. For my online classes, this kind of becomes a predictable structure for them. So this is early in the course, and it's important for them to understand that we begin with a warmer, then we move into readings, then we do our content. But once I'm into like week 11, they know this. They know that this is kind of where we're going. And then again, I have a visual, and I've decided for my course that I wanted my visuals to be different. I thought that could be something that could be appealing for students. But again, if my topics were similar, like here I'm in vocabulary again, I could use the same picture so that maybe that would be a connector for students. Like, oh, this is vocabulary, and all the vocabulary have the same image. I just decided to play around with the images as much as possible, but I think having similar ones would be fine too. And then here you can see that I have 6 topics that I've added in to this. Some of them are checked off as complete because, again, I've been like playing in this for a summer. But if I was a student viewing it for the first time, you would see 0 of 6 topics completed. And I just begin with how I want students to see the material. Something I did just because it's the way my brain works is it'll mirror what I listed above. So students can click into an overview document, which is just something that is in Google. I'm a course point person, and I need to think a lot about how I share resources with other instructors that are teaching the course. Oh, I'm sorry, I removed this document. That's not helpful for this, but I'll show you an example of where it's there. And then what it does is it kind of allows me to use the tools I've already been using without changing too much of it. So I'm able to link a document that I also would share with instructors. Again, the readings, you saw this as a checklist in my other session, but here they are again. Really easy to upload. Students have choice again. I'm able to put the 4 choice articles in order here. Students can look through each one. They can open them up to decide if this, oh, I'm sorry. I have to open up my permissions. That's because I'm starting to use my Google while I'm living in 2 different worlds. But typically I would have all of my permissions updated, or I could download them as PDFs so that students can view them with ease. And they would decide, like, is this the document I'm going to read for class? Now for my students, once they're in the readings, they can click backwards to just get back into the module to go on to the next task. So I have my readings, my content presentation. And then here for the content presentation, this is a little bit different every week depending on what they need to see. So for this week, I have them watching videos of to learn a little bit more about the phrase, the word gap, that is commonly used in education. And I was able to link all of the different, I'm gonna have to, some of my videos aren't showing up even though we just tested them last week. But as I found that I was able to just add my videos to this shell through a link. So the videos were able to link in here, and I'll have to check the links just to see if things have been changed or not updated. And then the last thing I want to show you is just because I was trying to think of what tools are commonly used in an online course that I needed. And a big one became like, I need to think of a way that students can submit an assignment, and I need to think of a way that students can access a discussion board. So use the post and reply. So for my discussion board, here I'm using Flipgrid, which again was something we talked about that is being phased out. And in thinking about what we're going to do with it, Padlet also offers that video option. And Padlet is accessible to everyone at Hunter. So I would just change the link so that students can post and reply to a video on Padlet. The other option is using just the discussion, post and reply with text. In the beginning of the course, especially if it's online, I really like my students to have the option to see each other because they're just getting to know each other, and I'm looking to build community. And then as we move through the course, I typically will use more options for them to incorporate text as their discussion. Okay. And then the last thing I want to show is the assignment. And this is a written assignment. So here I was able to tell the students where it's due. I'm giving them directions for how to make a copy of the template, and then they're able to submit it as just an uploaded document, very similar to how both, depending on what you use, Google Classroom or Blackboard works. And when students click on this, they'll see the assignment with fleshed out details. And you can see here that I have not submitted yet, but there's many options for how you can choose to submit if you want to upload. Students can also ask a comment as they're going through it, which I like a lot. So you can kind of engage with them individually around a topic. And so you can see, like, throughout the sessions, they're all kind of outlined the same way, letting students know through numbering where they're beginning. And then I kind of toggle between asynchronous and synchronous online tools.